Dan Lanning, one of the most talked about coaches in college football right now. Nobody has been more talked about than Nick Saban, but if you didn't hear the name Nick Saban, you probably heard the name Dan Lanning, because there were reports coming out everywhere that Dan Lanning was in Tuscaloosa getting interviewed to take the head coaching spot at Alabama. For all the people who are new to this channel, I'm an Oregon Ducks fan, and seeing this news did get me just a little bit scared at first. I woke up and seen all kinds of reports about Dan Lanning going to Alabama. Some people were saying it was guaranteed and completely settled that Dan Lanning was going to Alabama. On the other hand, I still believe Dan Lanning would stay at Oregon, despite all the rumors, because he just stated in an interview just a couple weeks ago that Oregon is his home, and he is tired of moving states, and that he has everything he wants at Oregon, and he has shut down rumors many times of him leaving Oregon. It was rumored that he would possibly go to Texas A&M, but he has continued to shut down all those rumors. And also, there were some reliable sources like 24/7 Sports that completely shut down the rumor of Dan Lanning being in Tuscaloosa. But still, people thought it was a done deal for some reason. And as an Oregon Ducks fan, I have to say I am satisfied with the head coach we have at Oregon. And we finally don't have to worry about head coaches leaving us. And it really seems that we finally got the elite head coach that will keep us near the top for a while. And Dan Lanning is staying at Oregon, and I could not be any more happy about his announcement to stay at Oregon. We have basically dealt with coaches leaving us for the whole last decade, and it's been a reoccurring theme. First it was Chip Kelly, then it was Willie Taggart, then it was Mario Cristobal, but at the end of the day, I'm glad these coaches left, because Dan Lanning is building a future for the Oregon Ducks. And we couldn't ask for a better coach, and I guarantee that we will compete in the Big Ten next year. But today, as you can tell by the title, we will be talking about the future of the Oregon Ducks, and what's next for this program as a whole. But before I get into this video, let me remind you guys to like the video and also subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel, because we post daily college football content and basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider subscribing. But without further ado, let's talk about the Oregon Ducks. Let's start with looking at the success that Dan Lanning has had as a coach. First of all, he's only 37 and he has a long way to go, but I could see him having a lot more success down the line. But already in just 2015, he spent the year as a graduate assistant where the Alabama Crimson Tide defeated Clemson 45-20 in the College Football National Championship game that year. He was also a brief linebackers coach for Memphis after leaving Alabama, but then he took himself to another top-tier program as he became Georgia's linebacker coach in 2018. Then he was promoted to defensive coordinator, which led to a national championship in 2022 in his last year at the Georgia Bulldogs. With no head coaching experience yet, there were still questions about if he can take over the role of being a head coach. But next it was announced that he would be Oregon's head coach the season after the national championship when he had at Georgia. He had experiences at a high level being a defensive coordinator at Georgia, but he had not been a head coach yet. And let's say, Dan Lanning has done a pretty decent job at Oregon so far. It was a rough start of his head coaching career, as he had a road loss to Georgia in which they lost 49-3 in his first game. But he ended up finishing the season 10-3 in 2022, where they ended up beating North Carolina in the Holiday Bowl. Nothing crazy for this Oregon program. We've had many 10-win seasons before, but he also brought in a really good recruiting class. But in 2023, this Oregon Ducks team exceeded expectations as they finished with a 12-2 record and came 2 field goals away from making the college football playoffs after 2 heartbreaking losses to the undefeated Washington Huskies, who ultimately ended up being the national championship runner-up. But ultimately, the Oregon Ducks still won the Fiesta Bowl and finished with the top 5 recruiting class and finished in the top 6 in the AP poll. And this team is going into 2024 with a legitimate shot to win the Big Ten. And as of now, they are the 6th highest odds to win the national championship. Step by step, Dan Lanning continues to build something bigger at Oregon. And do not be surprised if Oregon ends up winning their first natty within the next 5 years with a head coach like Dan Lanning. They have brought in quarterback Dillon Gabriel from Oklahoma, who was a front-runner for the Heisman halfway through the season. And they also brought in former 5-star quarterback out of high school, freshman Dante Moore from UCLA, who did have a tough first year, but still has a lot of potential. And with Dillon Gabriel leading the way for his last year, Dante Moore will be the backup, and he should have a year to learn behind a veteran like Dillon Gabriel, and he should have time to learn in that Oregon offense. And I do expect Dante Moore to be ready when it is time for him to step up for this team and be the leader of this team. But next year, I can almost guarantee Dillon Gabriel will be starting unless some sort of injury happens. And he really reminds me a lot of the 2014 Heisman winner Marcus Mariota. They are both Hawaiian, they both wear number 8, and they both honestly have similar play styles. And Dan Lanning is already doing an amazing job bringing in players who will play a huge impact. They are losing some talent to the NFL, guys like Bo Nix, running back Bucky Irvin, receiver Troy Franklin, center Jackson Powers Johnson. They are losing some offensive talent, and they are also losing one of their top players on the defensive side, with Brandon Dorless being gone. And a big majority of their secondary is also leaving. But on the other hand, they have one of the better edge rushers in the country, Jordan Birch, returning. And they have picked up 4- and 5-star edge rusher and defensive tackle Elijah Rushing and Aiden Breland. Depending on what source you're looking at, they are 5 stars. They are bringing in a top 5 recruiting class according to ESPN, and also have the number 25 transfer portal class. I would consider they should be higher because yeah, they have only picked up 7 players so far, but they also picked up what they need and players who will play a huge factor to the team. Like Dylan Gabriel, who are already mentioned. They have also brought in 3-star offensive tackle Matthew Bedford from Indiana to help on their already stacked offensive line with NFL talent. And they brought in a new kicker from Oregon State. And special teams is honestly a huge need for the Oregon Ducks. But they also picked up a very underrated piece to the team, a guy that not that many people are talking about, and that is safety Kobe Savage from Kansas State. And I mean, come on now, his name is Kobe. He will definitely play a factor. But they also picked up 3-star running back Jay Harris from the FCS, and he has potential to be better than a 3-star. And I've heard a lot of good things about him, even coming from the FCS level. And the Oregon Ducks are going to have a battle at the running back position with Jordan James, Noah Whittington, and now Jay Harris joining in the conversation. But I said they did lose some key pieces from their secondary. But the last guy they brought in from the transfer portal was a 4-star cornerback, Cam Alexander from UTSA. So we should be able to help out that secondary. And I don't want to get my hopes up about this Oregon team, but I think this Oregon team will be very dangerous next year. They got everything they need. And now it just comes down to executing and winning the big games. And I know they don't play Washington until the last week of the regular season. And I know Washington will be a bit worse next year. If Oregon wants to be taken seriously, then it starts with beating the Washington Huskies and proving that they can get over that hump of losing to them. But we got a lot of returning talent on both sides of the ball. And we are bringing in some key pieces to the team. And I expect us to be competing near the top of college football just like we were this year. And I honestly expect them to make the 12-team playoffs. But I really hope Oregon wins the Big Ten. It isn't going to be easy. We're going to see a lot of competition next season. We play Michigan, Washington, and Ohio State. And we don't play Penn State. But Penn State is a team that will be good like always. And they will be competing in the Big Ten. And a game that could catch us off guard is that road game against Wisconsin near the end of the season. But we also have a game that should test us a little bit against a Boise State team that should be a lot better. And we also play the Civil War game against an Oregon State team that should be a lot worse. But those are not easy games, and they will be decent tests for this Oregon team to start the season. I should also mention that right after we play Boise State and Oregon State back-to-back, we have UCLA on the road next week. But we have a high-caliber defense that will be able to compete in the Big Ten next season. But we also have a fun offense to watch. The receiving talent will be loaded next year. But it's also been rumored that we could be picking up 5-star receiver Evan Stewart out of the transfer portal. Could you imagine Dylan Gabriel throwing to Tez Johnson, Evan Stewart, and Trayshawn Holden? We also got a 5-star receiver waiting for his time to shine, and Jerry and Dickey, who could honestly be very good. We also got a guy like Gary Bryant Jr. who has showed his capabilities to make plays. But we also got tight end Terrence Ferguson, who is really solid as well. The Oregon Ducks receiving talent is going to be insanely good next year, and I cannot wait to see some of these guys hit the field. We have so many guys on both sides of the ball who will make big impacts next season, and I can't wait for the 2024 football season. Not just to watch the Oregon Ducks play, but to watch some of the matchups we will have next year. Games like Oregon playing Michigan in the Big House. Midway through the season, we also have Ohio State playing Oregon at Autzen Stadium. We also are going to see USC playing Michigan, Washington playing Michigan. The Big Ten schedules are going to be insane. There's so many great games. But what about the SEC? We are seeing Georgia versus Alabama in the regular season, which is very rare. But with the expansions, we are seeing Oklahoma versus Alabama, Georgia plays Texas, Texas plays Texas A&M. So many big-time games, and both conferences will be open. But what about the ACC? Imagine California teams like Stanford and Cal traveling across the country to play teams from the Carolinas, or Florida, or Virginia. I mean, East Coast to West Coast and West Coast to East Coast travel is going to be insane. But the conference that is really open is the Big 12, which doesn't have any powerhouses, but so many contenders and new matchups. It's going to be a lot of fun. And it's going to be crazy. But everybody, let's have faith in the Oregon Ducks and Dan Lanning, because Dan Lanning has earned our trust. And he deserves all the respect in the world. And the Oregon Ducks will be dangerous again and Dan Lanning has got this program back on the right track. And we are finally a defensive-minded program, and at the end of the day, defense wins championships. So I'm telling everybody right now, remember to come back to this video, because right now I'm calling my shot, and I'm saying that the Oregon Ducks will win a national championship before 2030, with Dan Lanning as the head coach. And who knows, maybe we'll win more than one, but that sets the bar really high. But I really believe in Dan Lanning and this Oregon Ducks team. So everybody remember to come back if the Ducks win a natty. But anyways, if you guys don't come back, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and also turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. And if you guys love college football, then you will love this channel, because we post daily college football content, and we basically cover everything on this channel. So definitely consider dropping a sub. But what a day it is to be an Oregon Ducks fan. And before I go, this is me saying go Ducks. But that's going to do it, guys, and peace out.